All right. This is one of my favorite questions or favorite conversations. We touched on it a little bit early on, but we all have people that have impacted or influenced or guided us along our lives. Sometimes it's for a second, sometimes it's for a lifetime, sometimes on purpose, sometimes not. So, for example, my grandfather was probably one of my first influencers. Um, Him and my mom, my grandmother, my aunt, we were all from Kiev, and they went to Canada. And he used to take me for walks in the park when I was about 5 years old. And one day I asked him, I call him Zeta. I said, Zeta, how do you know all these people that you talk to? Obviously, it was for him that I talk a lot. It was his fault that this happens. But he said, well, one day I smiled at this person over there, and he walked over to me and smiled at me. And then while we were laughing and talking, another person came over and smiled at us and made us feel good about that. And that was, and as a 5 year old, I'm thinking, wow, this is pretty cool. You just have to smile at people and you make friends and things happen and stuff. And then as I got older, I kept remembering it that it almost is as simple as that, and yet not. Um, but it doesn't take much to influence people, and a lot of times we don't even know we're influencing people, and we should think about that too. So we've all had people like that in our lives, maybe even people we don't know, but we heard a speech, or maybe people we do know that are very close to us. So can you share two or three people that have made a difference for you or have influenced you in one way or another?
I think the bunch of people that I worked with in human trafficking, and I cannot mention their names for
No, I
that
don't want names.
reasons, unfortunately. But there's a group of people even though it is for an organization I don't work with, unfortunately, anymore. But I still kept in touch with a lot of the people that I worked with, and they really have made a difference in my life. 'Cause I
I
could
bet.
be quite harsh at times for myself,
Hmm.
to be honest. And they showed me that it was also good to be kind for yourself, and that I was good enough, who I was, that I didn't have to prove myself all the time.
Hmm.
And I took that from them, and I'm using that now in my like work, because a lot of people sometimes are really tough and they like to prove themselves, and then I always try to find a moment to sit with them, and I'm like, what is it that makes you so tough, and do you really see how amazing you are, and this is all that you do so great, and we learn from. And that really opened my eyes, because I was never used to getting compliments. I've never learned that when,
Right.
and that's just the culture that I live in. We are really like direct, and and once I moved around the world, and landed almost in that bed of amazing people that are still amazing friends of mine. They showed me that it's okay to accept compliments, and to be nice for yourself, not always want to improve. Sometimes good is good enough.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's a brilliant statement, and I think that is a major influence because we can be too hard on ourselves a lot as well, and like you say, always trying to prove and prove and prove, and that's exhausting.
it is. And I think the experience for me living all over the globe really taught me those little things. Just stand still for a little while and think of what you have achieved. And, if somebody else doesn't tell you that you did a great job, but you still feel you did a great job, you did a great job. You know, it's okay to tell yourself sometimes. Some cultures just don't say that, or they don't compliment, or not that fast.
Yeah, or
So,
they don't say I love you because oh my God, if you say I love you, that's a bad thing, or
right.
or soft or
Yeah,
something
I've
like
I've
that.
I've learned that in the US, actually, because you're so overwhelming almost at first for me, like that. My friends, oh, we love you so much, and I'm like, love me? I've never heard that. That's so silly.
Well, it's a great lesson for us to all learn is that we're influencing people all the time ourselves too, and it's our choice to be positive or negative, and we may never know how we influence, but isn't that a good choice to be more positive, knowing that?
Absolutely. More positive, more loving for yourself as well, because then you can give way more to others.
Well, that's brilliant advice. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I'd like to tell you a little story because I remember that I was with a group of girls that were abused and of course trafficked. And they were trafficked in the Middle East. And I remember having a conversation with them and they were so, I don't know, down, you couldn't get that event out of their brain and out of their lives, and they thought they were not worthy anymore because they were raped. And I was telling them that example that I had learned from someone watching that person tell a similar group but then in another country. And I gave them here the glass of water that I have, and I said the glass, it's really light and it's not heavy or anything. But if you hold it for an hour, it gets heavier. If you hold it for a day or for weeks, So I asked them what will happen. Well, your arm gets sore. So and I was telling them, it's what happened to you. It happened, of course. You don't like to just say that it never happened and it wasn't bad, but it doesn't change you. It just holds you back. It will weigh you down. You cannot move forward because of your experiences. So
Right.
you have to let that go. And then I asked for someone for a golden ring, and I said, if I put dirt on it here, what is it, still a golden ring or is it something different?
Hmm.
They were like, no, it's still a golden ring. So I said, whatever happens to you, you know, down below, it just doesn't change your value. It's still who you are. And those two things that I've learned and heard from that person, I always bring that, and I see changes in faces. They light
Sure.
up, and yeah,
That's a great story. It's basically you're not defined by what happened to you. Um,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
You're welcome. Yeah.